On a Thursday. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Network. My name is Jerry Miller. Fantastic program lined up for you. So excited to connect with you guys on this platform. We try to feature the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia, and our guests undoubtedly embody that spirit and what we stand for at I Love CVille. Cynthia Murray is our flagship guest, the star of the program. Alex Urpí is also joining us. He's the president of Forward Adelante, the Latin business journal, and someone who is certainly spotlighting the Latin community very well. Cynthia Murray, an attorney, an entrepreneur, an influencer, a thought leader in our community, also globally a thought leader in our community, an author. I have 3 of her books right here in my hands that I'm very excited to discuss and spotlight. She is the winner of the Chuck Lewis Passion Award, and she's going to be honored with this award with the ceremony, I believe, at Alumni Hall at the University of Virginia. So we're going to talk about that, that accolade that Cynthia has on the very near horizon. Before we welcome our guests to the program, let's thank some of the folks that helped make this program possible. We will give some attention and some spotlight and love to Intrastate Pest and Service Companies. We are proudly their advertising agency of record. I'm going to give you a 15-second snapshot of this business. It's 4 generations strong today, nearly 100 employees, a Commonwealth-wide footprint with an office in Richmond, the Shenandoah Valley, and the headquarters by Bodo's Bagels on Harris. Now, guys, this business started in 1969 with the first generation. His name, Mr. Wells. He had 1 truck, the willingness to work hard, and some vision. Mr. Wells would go to his first customer, service them successfully, and then head to the closest payphone in 1969, where he would call his second customer and say, "May I come to your home now?" Today, almost 100 employees, 4 generations of family members, 3 offices, and a Commonwealth-wide footprint, and certainly making Charlottesville, Central Virginia, and Virginia in totality a better place to live. So thank you, Intrastate Pest and Service Companies. We will also thank Scott Wagner, the good doctor, Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. We're also his advertising agency of record. Whether it's chiropractic care, sports medicine, or physical therapy, he's changing people's lives. He's in the old Quinn Farmer auction house. When we first started working with him, it was 1 doctor himself and a couple of folks. Today, 5 doctors, a team of almost 30 people, and certainly making Charlottesville and Central Virginia a better place with chiropractic care and sports medicine and physical therapy. Guys, I have the easy job. All I have to do is be myself on this microphone in front of this camera and connect with you guys. The folks that have the tough job, our director, Harris Tolber, our producer, Judah Wickower, the team upstairs led by Lauren Linsky, who are certainly making this program stay focused, stay on track, and stay on air. I think on that note, Harris, let's go to the studio camera and let's welcome 2 people to this show that are certainly making the set look better. And Cynthia Murray.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Alex, also in the house. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Jerry. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. We will start with Cynthia Murray. And Cynthia, why don't we start with what we call the birth story or the flip book of your personal and professional life, who you are as a businesswoman, who you are personally from hobbies, passions, and interest standpoint.
Sure. Well, it was a snowy night in January. True story, but we'll talk offline about that. A really funny story about my birth. But I am a native of Charlottesville, Jerry, and I love that this is a place that I get to call home, or to say that I'm from this place. I'm very proud of Charlottesville. It's a beautiful place, not only aesthetically, but the people are really what makes Charlottesville a wonderful place to be from and a place to come back home. So, yeah, I'm a product of the Albemarle County Public Schools.
Love that.
Yep. It's my parents were actually public educators, albeit in the city of Charlottesville. Some people might remember my dad. He's deceased now, but his name was Freddie Murray, and he was in leadership as a principal and an assistant principal in Charlottesville. And this is very interesting. My dad used to be the assistant principal of Lane High School, which is now the county office building right on McIntyre Road. And my dad helped to integrate Lane High School. And I remember him telling me stories about how he and at that time, I believe Jack Hegel was the principal. My dad was the assistant principal. Dr. Hegel is a Caucasian gentleman, and my dad, African-American gentleman, and they came together as a united front to literally break up race riots at Lane High School. And people would get ready to start fighting, and the crowd would quickly amass. We know what that looks like, unfortunately, all too well. And Dad and Mr. Hegel would go out there and say, "Now, boys, we're not doing this. We're going to do things decently and in order, and we're going to be kind to one another." And so my dad and my mom both are educators. Well, my father was, my mom is still an educator. But I'm a product of Albemarle County Public Schools. Went to Albemarle High School and then matriculated to the University of Virginia, to the College of Arts and Sciences.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. I started out wanting to major in international relations, and God bless that professor. God bless him. But I sat on the front row, as I did on all of my classes, and I was bored to tears. I said, I can't do this. I can't major. That was just me. I'm sure it's a wonderful major. It's wonderful. The professors are fantastic. But for me, it just didn't click. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be, an ambassador to some Latin American country. And I just couldn't sit through a class. I said, no, I can't do this. So I talked to my parents, and I said, that's not going to be my major. So they said, you know what? Just do what you like and put your whole self into it, and you'll succeed. So I took their advice. It's great advice.
Fantastic
it's great advice. I majored in Spanish. So I was in the Department of Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, and my minor was anthropology. So I finished up at the University of Virginia and then went straight into law school, because I thought if I go to work first and I start making money, I'm not going to want to go back to school. So I decided, let's just do this. Let's roll. So I went straight from undergrad at UVA into the law school.
Double who?
I'm a double who.
That's impressive.
Who knew?
Single who?
Single
Double who? Very impressive.
Come on, Jerry. Yeah, so I loved it. I mean, to have this institution in our backyard, like I said, I'm from Charlottesville. So to have the University of Virginia right here was like a no-brainer. I mean, I did look at other schools, because I thought, maybe I want to get away from mom and dad. I want to go somewhere else. Ultimately, it was the right choice, 100%.
I love it. Let's create that into a sizzle reel, a highlight reel. We're going to go to Alex here very shortly. Before we do, we'll thank some of your fans that are giving you props right now.
Aww.
Kathleen Rigney is so impressed with you right now.
Kathleen.
Amanda Munyon.
Yes, she's in South Africa.
She says, Cynthia Murray, congratulations. You are totally awesome. Jenny
Amanda.
Arvello.
Yes. Hi, Sister Jenny. She is in New York.
I love it. She
Big
says,
Apple.
Congratulations.
Aw, thank you, Jenny.
Carissa Ruiz.
Yes, Carissa, also in the Big Apple. I go to New York a lot.
I see that. She says, congratulations. May God continue blessing you abundantly. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yes, I received that.
Kathleen says, love you, sister.
Love
Lydia
you
says,
too.
congratulations, Cynthia. All well earned and deserved. Like and share the post. Like and share the stream anywhere you're watching, just like Anna Varela.
Yes.
Ruth
Anna.
Pizarro.
Yes. In
Hector
Florida.
Arvello.
Aw.
Ronel Eduardo.
Look at all my
Jillian
peeps.
Pacheco. Am I saying that right?
You are saying that right.
Nia Loziano is watching. I mean,
Hi, Nia.
many people. Right, that's got to make you feel good.
It does. They're all amazing people, and I know we'll talk a little bit more in the hour about the ministry that I have. But all of these people, the precious, beautiful people. Hi, everybody. I love you. They are all just people that I've met on my journey through Divine Women of Destiny Ministries International, and so I do minister in the nations all the time. In fact, I'm about to head out to Bucharest, Romania, but I also minister a lot in other cities in the United States, and I go to New York all the time. Big Apple, holding it down.
Fernanda's giving you love right
Yeah.
now.
Hi,
Nia's giving you love.
Hi,
Guys,
Nia.
like and share the stream. We're going to go to Alex, and Alex is the president of Forward Adelante, the Latin business journal. And Alex he's worked behind the scenes to help facilitate this interview. And one of the reasons we are spotlighting Cynthia, she is multi-talented in a number of different ways, undoubtedly a leader in our community, but also the Chuck Lewis Passion Award winner. The show is yours, Alex.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. Yeah, so every year, Forward Adelante, one of our missions, obviously, is to really highlight those in the community that have overcome adversity to become entrepreneurs and achieve success. And we've been doing that in honor of Chuck Lewis, who was just a tremendous influence and a great man in this community, and really a symbol of doing it that way, of overcoming that adversity and achieving that success and then giving back to his community. And so we've been giving this award out in his honor. I think this is going to be 7 or 8 years running now. And every year, similar process, interviews, nominations. And this year, it was actually our vice president, Christelle Knoll, of Christelle Knoll State Farm Agency out in Richmond area, that nominated Cynthia Murray. And I said, I know Cynthia, I'll conduct the interview, we'll do it. And it's one of those rare times when you do the interview, and as I'm doing the interview, usually I was telling Cynthia earlier, sometimes when I'm doing the interview, I have to be a little cautious because I don't want anyone to get overly excited that you might win the award and then not win it. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those rare opportunities where as I'm conducting the interview, I'm like, okay, I don't think I have to worry about Cynthia being disappointed here. This interview is already fantastic.
I
Just
love it.
To the story of what Cynthia's gone through, what she's come through, the work that she put in, and she'll tell her a little bit more about her story later, just the idea of leaving employment, a stable employment, to go out on your own and be an entrepreneur. That's just such a huge step to take and a challenge to take. And the way she took that step and now is giving back in huge and incredible ways. I mean, part of the reason we were sort of working around with the schedule this year with Chuck Lewis Award is I talked to Cynthia and she's like, I'm going to be in Romania. And I said, okay, we need to make sure that we put this award when you get back from Romania. So it's June 27th at Alumni Hall. There are still plenty. We've moved to a larger place. We outgrew. Many thanks to the Paramount. For years we were there. We simply ran out of room. We started... Last year, I was telling the team, some of you guys are going to have to stand because I only have 100 seats to give out. And now we're moving to Alumni Hall. Still tickets available, faba2019.eventbrite.com. But really just a way the award is there to showcase and help. It not only helps encourage people to see that there are entrepreneurs like Cynthia out there who have done this and who have worked hard and persevered and are now giving back, but it's also, I think, a way for them not just to appreciate the kind of person that Cynthia is, but to look at themselves and say, I can do this. You know, especially being Latino in the Latino community, to be able to say to fellow Latinos, look what others are doing. Look what they've overcome. Yeah. Look what Cynthia as an African-American woman has overcome. Look what Pablo from last year as a Latino immigrant from Mexico has overcome to get to this point. Look what the success that they've achieved. You too can do this. There's nothing holding you back. You know, don't fall for the people that tell you, no, you can't do this or you need someone else to do it for you. You can achieve this, and then you can be the person that goes back to the community and says, I will help you. I will help you get this done. I will help you pursue your dreams just like I pursued mine.
I love that. Sizzle Reel, his answer right there. That's a highlight, undoubtedly. Kathy Bayera says, hello, Alex.
Oh, hello, Kathy.
She's giving you some
from
props
New York
right
also.
Now. Yes.
I was born there.
Tim Ryan in Crozet, Rick Henderson in Richmond, Grace Australia in Richmond. We have folks watching in Northern Virginia, D.C., Richmond, Charleston, Charlotte, New York, Long Island, and outside Chicago right now. Welcome to the program, Ron Gantz. Chuck Lewis Passion Award.
Yes.
You're the winner.
I am the winner.
Talk to us about that.
I am so honored. It is a tremendous honor. And I want to try to say this and get through it without becoming emotional. But, you know, it's authentic. This is not contrived. Chuck Lewis was a mentor of mine. I know his children, and Charlie and Leah. You know, Mr. Lewis used to own Lewis Produce. Mm-hmm. And I remember playing as a kid in Lewis Produce with Leah. We both had pigtails, and we were just running around, having fun, running through the aisles, you know, of all the produce. And Mr. Lewis was just one of those people that you just look up to him. You know, he was just someone to be admired, someone to be emulated. Now, when I was a little child, you don't register that. You just know this is a great person, a nice man. I like to be around this family. I had no idea as a little girl, just what an impact he was having and would have on our community. I don't understand about being an entrepreneur. That's just what Leah's dad did, and I enjoyed being with their family. As I became an adult, then Mr. Lewis, who, of course, was an entrepreneur and owned a lot of real estate and property, I went to him for advice because I believe at that time we actually were attending the same church together. And I said, Mr. Lewis, can I talk to you about rental property? He was like, you better get in here. Come on down to the office. And, he was busy, but he took time for me. And he taught me how to get started in owning rental property. He really just took me under his wing to everything from showing me his rental contract, why this clause was in there. I wasn't a lawyer at the time, so, or maybe I don't remember. At that time, was I a lawyer? I was, but I was not in real estate. I didn't have any grid for that.
Sure. So,
people sometimes think lawyers know everything, any kind of law. Hey, I got this medical malpractice. I don't do that. It's just like doctors, they practice and specialize in different things. So I was humble and wise enough to know I needed to talk to an expert. I needed to talk to somebody that had been in rental property, albeit his was primarily commercial. Still, he had a lot to teach me, and he did. He took time for me to the most minute things about owning property and the contracts and those kinds of things. And I had the privilege of visiting with him on many, many occasions, even close to his death. And I was right there with Leah and Charlie to the days leading up to that in hospice. And I will never forget, Jerry, I went in to see Mr. Lewis one day in hospice, and he was very weak at that time. And I sat down next to his bed, and I didn't want him to talk too much and expend his energy. His family was very gracious to even allow me that time to come in with him. And I said, Mr. Lewis, I'm writing a book too. And I remember he didn't respond verbally. He just smiled and went like this with his eyes, like, proud of you. And that was just a very, very special moment with Mr. Lewis because he was always proud of his children. He loved his children with all of his heart. And he was the kind of man that gave back to others that he saw potential in. And I was the beneficiary of Mr. Lewis's kindness and of his tutelage and mentorship. And now, imagine me, I get to receive that award on June the 27th. I could not be more honored, could not be more humbled.
I love that answer. Sizzle reel that answer. Start with my question all the way through that point. That's the third sizzle reel, Harris. A lot of your friends are giving you some attention and some kind words. I will get to that shortly. I have a follow-up for you on that. It's amazing how life comes full circle.
Yes.
I'm going to throw that to you.
Yes.
You are young and impressionable, and you're going to Mr. Lewis for advice and counsel and perspective.
Yes.
And he easily shared it with you.
Easily.
Now you are winning an award named after him.
Yes.
And you are seen as someone that is looked up to in the community for advice and counsel and perspective. Talk to us about that.
Sure, Jerry. It just comes naturally, honestly, because my father was and my mother continues to be that kind of person. They see young people and they want to help them. They want to do whatever they can to encourage young people and help them get on a good start. And I think that's why my parents became public educators. So for me, giving back to the community, giving back to people that I can help with a hand up, right? It's kind of in the DNA. I have to pay it forward. I have to pay it forward.
And I love how you said it, not hand out, hand up.
Absolutely. I believe in that principle very strongly.
Me too.
I think that, first of all, let me say this. There isn't anything wrong with a handout because sometimes people are even too weak to stand up once you help them up. We have to help people to be able to stand. Mm-hmm. And then that's sometimes the handout, right? Sometimes they can't give anything back. They can't pay it forward. They just need to survive in the moment. And that's the handout. But the hand up takes them further.
The sense of empowerment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that is part of the tagline of our international ministry that I was telling you about, Divine Women of Destiny Ministries International, uplifting, empowering, and encouraging. Because to us, and the rest of it is in Christ. So to us, you have to first uplift. That person's down, you have to lift them up. Mm-hmm. The next thing is you have to empower them. Okay, now you're up, now what? Now you need to be empowered, you need to be equipped, you need to be educated, much like what CIC does. Right?
Exactly.
They empower people. They give them the skills to not only survive, but to thrive. And then encourage so that there's sustainability in whatever the project is that you're doing, right? Whatever it is that person is you're helping, you want to help make sure that it's going to be for the long haul. So that's what I try to do, Jerry.
You're resonating.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad because it's really what my life is about. It's what it has become. And I would even go so far as to say it's my purpose.
I feel like it's our purpose. I feel like it's your purpose. The entire concept of what we're trying to do with I Love CVille, and this program was inspired after the events of August 11th and August 12th in Charlottesville, where we literally had the KKK outside of this building in this studio right now doing nasty and evil things I'd never seen before. I was out there myself in front of this building watching it firsthand, and we said, we're going to do our small part with the I Love CVille show, and we're going to spotlight people like Alex and Cynthia on this program, and we're going to talk about the good that Charlottesville has to offer. We're going to empower, we're going to uplift. We're social entrepreneurs where we're committed to making Charlottesville and the community a better place than when we first arrived in 2000 as a first year at the University of Virginia. 19 years of being actively involved in this community, and everything you stand for and everything Alex and Forward Adelante stand for is what we try to stand for here at I Love CVille, and I see what you're saying resonating with people. Kristen Rabati, am I saying her last name right? Rabati, you're an amazing woman, Cynthia, an inspiration and example to so many people all over the world. Amanda says, you are a phenomenal, phenomenal person. You are planting great seeds for the future. May God bless your legacy. Mike and Autumn Temple. Autumn is talking. Honor bestowed on an incredible lady. Congratulations, Cynthia. Absolutely excellent. Yolanda, you are absolutely wonderful. Kathleen, amen. Juan Mendez Jr., love my sister, a true voice to the nations. Hector, Cynthia, you've been a blessing to my family. God continue blessing to honor you. You deserve this. Congratulations. You have picked, undoubtedly, the right person for this award. The show is yours, Alex.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was definitely, and it's amazing to sort of piggyback off what Cynthia was saying. I didn't even know until after I went I speak with the Lewis family, and really Leah and Charlie, there's no words to express what their support means to us to really help us put on this event and honor their father. They're such tremendous and incredible people. And I went to go tell them that Cynthia had won the award, and that's when I found out for the first time that Cynthia did in fact know Chuck Lewis, because usually it's not a question we ask in the interview process. Did you know? We ask people, do you know of him, just to sort of share what the award's about. But I don't usually ask, did you happen to know him personally? But it's amazing how every so often, this happened actually 2 years ago, when Joe Fenasso won our award, Sal's Cafe Italia. He also had known Judd Lewis back when he was starting up his business in the downtown mall. So it's amazing how these things, the Lord does work in mysterious ways, how people are brought together full circle. And just really the incredible nature of what Chuck Lewis is doing and did, and his story sort of recirculating, that he passes it on, that legacy of teaching and learning, and how Cynthia, having received that from him, now passes it on to others. There's a great story I like to sometimes talk about at Forward Adelante events by a Latino writer, Borges, and he wrote a story about a search for God, essentially, in the story, in which God is found by seeing the little spark of divinity person by person who was helped along the way. So he finds someone who does something for him, the main character, and he says, what made him help me? And he goes on this search to find the person who helped that person and the person who helped him, until he finds God. And so just the way that works, that when you help someone like that, it has those effects that reach so much deeper into the community over time. So that there are so many people in the Latino community. I know Cynthia does so much work there, to help Latinos into her law practice, all those Latinos are in some way receiving a little bit of what Chuck Lewis passed on. They may never have met him, they may not know him until I talked on Latin radio or until they see the Chuck Lewis Passion Award, but they're receiving something that he passed on.
I love it. And a lot of people watching right now, you guys will get a kick out of this. Kathy, who I just mentioned, she's watching in Italy with Zeno right now.
Oh, wow.
Watching
cool.
in Italy.
I hope you're having a good time.
Help me with this name right here, Alex.
Elvira Daniesi. Hi, Elvira.
She says
Also
hello. Adriana says, hi, Alex. I am so
Hi,
proud
Adriana.
of you. If you guys have a message or any comment you want to relay to Alex or Cynthia, I'm happy to relay it on air on the program. Why don't we do this? And you have done this already. How about in more depth, in an additional snapshot and perspective on Chuck Lewis? I know Chuck Lewis from York Place.
Yes.
On the downtown mall?
Yes, absolutely.
A commercial, as you said, a real estate owner, owned a large chunk of the downtown mall. His family still very invested in real estate in the community.
Absolutely.
That's the extent of what I know. Would you offer, please, more insight?
Sure. And again, I kind of have two epochs in time where I knew and was related to Mr. Lewis. One is as the entrepreneur, the one who, after whom the award is named, and such a great leader, community leader here in Charlottesville. And the other is almost like a dad. I had a wonderful father and I spent time with him, but the African proverb says that it takes a village to raise a child. And my parents unequivocally trusted and allowed me to be with the Lewis family and with Mr. and at that time, Mrs. Lewis, who has now gone home to be with the Lord. But both of them as parents, just beautiful people, loving parents, always willing to help out, hardworking, that hard work ethic. I saw it not only in my parents, but in all of my friends' parents as well, not the least of whom was Chuck Lewis. A hard worker. But even in the midst of all of that hard work, Jerry, he still found the time, made the time for his family. He was a family man. And how appropriate that we will be remembering him, not only today on the show, but in June, the month of that we celebrate fathers. He was a consummate father.
I love that. Thoughts on Chuck Lewis?
Oh, man. It's one of the great regrets of my life that I came to Forward Adelante after he had passed. I never got to meet him. So what I know of him comes actually from the founder of Forward Adelante, which is Olga Morse, and just the way she would describe him, the work that he put in, the way he had reached out to her. I got to know his book because she had passed it on to me, Olga, and because she was a real estate agent herself, Olga, before she started Forward Adelante. And really, I think he was one of the inspirations for her starting this organization back in 2008. Just seeing the struggle that people were having, and it was the middle of the recession. She knew firsthand, being in real estate, how hard it was to find work, and just the general depression that people were having, that they would hand out. She would describe it as you would go to networking events, and you wouldn't even bother handing out business cards. Like today, it's ubiquitous. Here's my business card.
Sure.
She would say she would go, and people wouldn't even bother, because it was like, I'm not going to get any work. And inspired in part by Chuck Lewis and wanting to bring that to the Latino community, she said, I need to do something. Let's start with a magazine. Let's start with showing inspirational people, inspirational Latinos, inspirational African Americans, inspirational people of all diverse backgrounds and entrepreneurs, to sort of get people with that confidence and that empowerment again. And out of that, it's only natural. And looking back, it's not surprising at all that eventually, as she reached out to actual events to bring Latinos together with other entrepreneurs, that the first one that she would think of would be, let's do an award in honor of Chuck Lewis.
I love it.
In honor of this man who's inspired so many, who inspired her, and who, in some ways, through her, has inspired me. Because, I mean, my father is an entrepreneur. He's been one for a long time. And just to see what he went through, to leave a big firm in New York, go to California, start a company with his family that really, through various ways, is still going on today with Emergent Financial Services, that he would never have dreamed that he would be working in the same company with all three of his sons doing investment advice. And so to see what he did, and then to see someone like Chuck Lewis, other side of the country, facing totally different obstacles, in a totally different line of business, but still with that same commitment to the family, that same commitment to, I want to help others to do what I've done, that same commitment of, it takes hard work. Being an entrepreneur, you do the business that you do, like the actual job. So, he was in the produce, you do the produce industry, but then you have to do everything else that comes in the back end of owning your own business. There's an added level of being an entrepreneur because it's all on you. At the end of the day, you have to open up the shop, you close the shop. If something happens to the shop, it's on you.
Yeah, you're everything.
If the employees, they're on you. I mean, their livelihoods in some way then begin to depend also on the employer. And so it's just, when you're an entrepreneur, there's that added level of responsibility and that understanding that it's not a 9-to-5 job anymore.
Yeah.
The entrepreneur doesn't...
24/7, 365.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
An entrepreneur doesn't check in and check out. The entrepreneur keeps going and has to work hard continuously.
Our business is 11 years old on May 31st, which I believe is in 2 days. I have a 14-month-old son, and our wedding anniversary is June 3rd, which is in a few days as well. I often, and literally just had this conversation before coming here to do this fabulous show with you guys who are fabulous people. I always say to folks, I have two kids. I have my 14-month-old son, and I have this 11-year-old business. And this 11-year-old business requires more attention than my 14-month-old son. And that's unfortunate to say, but that's the case.
Yeah.
And everything you just said is 100% correct. Luis Vargas says he's watching from Purdue.
Oh, hi, Louise.
From Peru, and
Hi,
absolutely
Louise.
loves you. Amanda Munion says you are on fire. And is giving you props. I want to throw this to you here. And we have, and she's watching right now, we had Leontini Clay Peck on the program yesterday. She is a cousin of Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay.
Wow.
She is a historian, an influencer, an entrepreneur. She's actively involved in the Queen Charlotte nonprofit, which Queen Charlotte nonprofit is the nonprofit that is spotlighting Queen Charlotte, who's the namesake of Charlottesville, Virginia. And I asked her this question, and he's brought it up briefly. As an entrepreneur, as a leader, as an influencer, as someone who is a double who, trials and tribulations to get to this point in your life. Can you spotlight some of those?
Sure. Quite honestly, and I know I'm going to sound a whole lot like a coach right now, but it's really true. So therefore, I teach my clients this, that I find some of the biggest obstacles in life are not external. They are internal. The biggest obstacles to our success so many times come from our own thoughts about what we can't do, what we shouldn't do, what hasn't been done ever before. And so we build up these internal barriers to our own success as to why we can't go forward and do something. And so if we're talking about how I got to this point as an entrepreneur, as a professional, I come from a line of professional people that did have a 9-to-5 job, and that was just kind of what was expected. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I began to feel like I didn't quite fit in the traditional 9-to-5, though I had done it for many years in the earlier part of my career. I started out as an attorney working for the Albemarle County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office. It wasn't quite 9-to-5, a little bit earlier than that, often a little bit later, but still, it's your traditional, get all your bank holidays, you know what I mean. And I loved it, I truly did, until I didn't. And I knew that there was something in me, that there was an entrepreneurial spirit. And I couldn't deny it any longer. I thoroughly enjoyed working for the Albemarle County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office as a prosecutor. I did that for many, many years. And toward the end of my tenure there, I just had this burning desire to break free. I loved the people. I loved the job. I loved helping people, victims or whatever the situation was. I enjoyed it. Until I said, I owe it to myself to tap into this pulse that I'm feeling about becoming an entrepreneur. And so what did I have to overcome? I had to overcome this idea that, you went to school to be a lawyer. That's the only thing you can do. Just dive headlong into it, and then that's good enough. What are you looking for something more?
That's so
for?
not you.
Right.
Yeah.
It isn't, Jerry.
Right. You're not a categorized person.
No.
You have so many talents. You have so many God-given abilities. I truly mean this. And I like
Thank you.
and one of the
Thank
best ones is the gift of human connection.
Yeah, and that's the most precious one to me, actually. It's not the law. You know, do you rejoice when you win a case? Of
course you do.
Yeah, well, sure you do.
Yeah.
But the real rub is the human connection. And, you know, so often with my clients, you know, if we don't get the desired result, sometimes I will tell them, but you know what? This case is not your biggest issue. I'll tell them sometimes, let's just be honest here and let's just talk about this case is a symptom of this that I'm seeing here. So whether we win or lose the case isn't really the big thing here. And so I'll often go into coaching mode or ministerial mode while I'm dealing with a legal case.
Love that.
Because I want to see that person succeed. It's not about whether you win this case. You might win the case, we might lose the case. But what's going to happen after the court doors have closed? What are you going to do with your life? You're at a crossroads here, and you can do this. You can succeed. So, and then obstacles too. So here's the trajectory, right? I started out as a Commonwealth's attorney. Well, I did hang out my shingle for like 6 months before that, but I didn't know anything. I didn't know the clerks. I didn't know the courtroom. I didn't know anything about anything other than I knew the law.
Sure.
But about the actual practice of the law, I needed a tutelage. I needed mentors. I was wet behind the ears, green, you know, but I still tried it for about 6 months until I began working with the Albemarle County Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, felt the rumblings of the entrepreneurship that would not go away. And so then I went to work for a military defense company called Northrop Grumman. And that is because I didn't want to go back to get an MBA. That's just me. I didn't want to do that, but I wanted business experience. So I went to this amazing company, which I am so grateful for the opportunity to have worked there for as many years as I did. Learned so much. Feel like I got an MBA on the job. And I handled international contracts for them. Awesome. So my clients were the Mexican Navy, the Peruvian Navy. I dealt with some of our allies in Eastern Europe. Also I was assigned to the Middle East with Africa. That had challenge. That was interesting. But it was just such a wonderful experience to learn business from just rolling your sleeves up, diving in and going, let's do this. And then another rumbling started. And that rumbling, because that was still a 9-to-5, right? I knew I wanted the entrepreneurship, but what I lacked was experience. So I knew that I needed to get business experience before I launched out on my own. So that's when I went to Northrop Grumman, and then the rumbling started. Come on, girl, do what you know you've been wanting to do. And it was in October of 2013 that I left Northrop Grumman on wonderful terms. It's a wonderful company. I'm very grateful to all that I learned and all the people that I met there. But it was time for me to go, and I knew it. I had another pulse that was beating, and it was time for me to go. So that was a big plunge, Jerry, because now you're really going out there with no safety net. You know, you don't have an IT department. You don't have a marketing, department. Like you just said, Alex, you do what you do. You have a skill, but now you've got to bring business acumen and not only do what you do, but you've got to move a business. You've got to keep it sustained. So I remember, you guys, that the day that I turned in my badge, it was my absolute last day. I worked till midnight. There because I wanted to make sure everything was in order. One of my concepts is you need to finish well. And I wanted to make sure the last email was sent. People knew where this file was. Wanted to make sure I had done all that. At 11:59, I'm out of there because I got a badge that ain't going to work anymore after 11:59 p.m. So I turned in the badge to the security, and I drove home, and I drove into my driveway, and I remember sitting in my car at the bottom of the driveway going, I hope you just did the right thing, because from here, there's no turning back.
There's no turning back.
And here we are coming up on 6 years in October.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's an inspiring story.
Thank you.
And I think her inspiring journey and evolution and story is a lot of what Forward Adelante epitomizes, and that you guys are creating a brand and a platform and a sense of inspiration for the Latin community to hear from other folks in the community so that they can pull from and apply to their day-to-day life. Talk to us about that with Forward Adelante.
Exactly. I was touching on what Cynthia mentioned about internally, the internal things we sort of put in there in our hearts and minds that sort of keep us from taking that entrepreneurial step, those challenges, those obstacles that are internal. And just thinking of the Latin community, there's so many of those challenges, those obstacles that we have internalized. You know, whether it be because my dad coming from Cuba, whether it be, you know, when you come from there to lose everything, to come from that feeling of, oh, if you start a business, it can all be taken away from you. From so many Latin American countries, the idea of, you know, the banking systems don't work very well there. Oh, well, I should just put all my money and keep it safe and not really enter into that kind of community. The idea of, well, you know, you run your own business by yourself, you don't really connect with others, you do that because you could get burnt. Because in so many places, those struggles are so real where we came from as the Latino community. And so many times, even here, the Latino community, there's that sort of mantra that those stereotypes that we always like, Olga and I always like to talk about, crushing stereotypes, romper los estereotipos, as we put on the magazine once. Those stereotypes that sort of get ingrained into the community of, well, Latinos were only workers or we're only laborers. And those are great jobs. I mean, there's nothing wrong if someone
you're not
wants to have.
marginalizing them.
We're not
Yeah,
marginalizing
right.
them.
Right.
But what we fight against is the idea that you can only be that. You can't go do something else. You can't, as a Latino, start your own business because it just won't work. Or that it'll never work unless someone tells you exactly what to do and gives you a handout and says, okay, with my handout you can do it, but by yourself you would never be able to do this. And so what we try to show at Forward Adelante is that, you know what, let's break those stereotypes.
You're creating a generational impact. You really are.
Exactly. I mean, that's our focus. I mean, our focus is not just on the Latino professionals that are here today and bringing them in connection with other business professionals here in Charlottesville, but also to reach out to that next Latino generation and say, okay, your parents, look what they've done. They've brought you here, right? They've started, whether it be a small restaurant, whether it be something else, take another step. You can do that. You could be in your family's restaurant and now turn it into two. You could turn it into a bigger restaurant. You could go and be like Cynthia and say, I'm not going to go into this business. I'm going to start something entirely fresh. The key part is to break those internalized stereotypes. Not the things that are not the structures outside, but the things that we absorb as Latinos from our history or from what other people tell us until we think it's our own voice telling us, you can't do this. No, you're going to be stuck in this type of job because it's what you are. Or you're Latino, so you should think this. You should think a certain way. You should act a certain way. You know, you should talk a certain way. No, we can do what we put our dreams to. We can follow our dreams as Latinos, as diverse people, and we don't have to be bound by the histories we came from. We can embrace the heritage we came from. You know, I embrace my Cuban heritage, my father. I mean, the food, the music, everything. But we've sort of moved past in the sense that we don't define ourselves by, oh, we lost everything in Cuba, therefore we'll never be able to amount to something. You know, my father abandoned that a long time ago when he ended up being head of the fixed income at Smith Barney back in New York. I mean, he was like, okay, I'm going all the way, and then I'm going to leave all that and do like Cynthia did. I'm going to leave all that and start my own business because that's what I want to do. I want to spend time with my kids. And just the fact that we can not be defined by our experiences, we can embrace them, and that's part of that overcoming adversity journey. It makes us who we are, but we don't have to be defined by it to the point that we limit ourselves in what we can do next.
I love that. Will you sizzle reel that? Start with my question all the way through that answer, Harris. That was amazing. Billy Kernick, who's the owner of Vivi's Cakes and Candy on Ivy Road, he says, I absolutely love Cynthia Murray. Aww. Great mind and so courageous and brave. This is a great show. William Jones III, welcome to the program. Barbara Lundgren, welcome to the show. Daniel Kaufman, who's the owner of Public Fish and Oyster on West Main, welcome to the show. Trent Whitting, thank you for joining us. Timothy Smith, Ray Cadell, an entrepreneur in real estate. Bellamy Brown, who's running for Charlottesville City Council. Brent Lillard, who's an entrepreneur, owns a martial arts dojo in town. Mark Wagner, thank you kindly for joining us. Laura Kelly, the makeup artist and musician, is watching right now. You're getting props. Nicholas? Is Nicholas your brother?
Yes, he is.
He's your brother.
And partner at Emergent.
He's saying, Alex doing what he does best. You sound great.
Thank you.
Give it a like, give it a share on any channel you're watching. This show live on 7 Facebook pages across the I Love CVille network. Kathleen says, I remember, she says, walking by faith, I remember when you were slowly taking things out of your office. Lydia Fazio says, the village is life empowering every week. God bless you, Cynthia.
Oh, thank you, Linda.
Kathleen adds, I've known Cynthia since, I believe, 2003, and everything she said she was going to do, she has done no matter what. No matter roadblocks, anything that would be in her way. She would always tell me, God, go with God in all things possible. She's a woman of integrity and a woman of her word.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Talk to us about legacy. Talk to us about mission, your personal mission statement. Talk to us about goals and how you want to be remembered.
Wow. Okay. Those are all very deep and heavy topics. I hope that I even have answers for them. You know, I think that our mission becomes clear as we're on the journey. We have
That's good.
We have an idea, even from youth. I think there are things that kind of are alerts and signs as to maybe what our purpose is. And can I start with this one, Jerry? People often ask me, how is it that you speak fluent Spanish? I'm often mistaken for a Latina, and people are often quite surprised. It's one way or the other, I find. They're either surprised to find out that I'm not Latina, or they're surprised to find out that I speak fluent Spanish. It's either, it's just polar opposites, two extremes. And but the reason why the Latino community is so important to me, I love it so much, is because that's been the case since I was a child. And the reason why I learned Spanish and speak it fluently now, when I was a child, I'm going to say probably about 7 years old, my older brother, Kenneth, so Kenneth, if you're watching, I love you in Miami, he was practicing Spanish vocabulary in his room. And I heard it, you know, he's like, el gato, el perro, you know, and I'm like, what in the world is that? What's he talking? So I ran into his room. I was like, what is that? What are you speaking? He goes, it's Spanish, stupid, get out of my room. And I overlooked the insult because something literally inside of my spirit man clicked. And I said, I have to know that language. At 7, you don't know what your purpose is. You don't have a clue. You're playing with dolls and your friends and making mud pies. You don't know anything. I knew I wanted to learn that language. So anything that was written in Spanish, I tried to learn it. My dad had some textbooks. Remember, I said he's an educator, so he had some Spanish 101 textbooks in the house. I would read them. Back then, the textbooks had Spanish on one side and the English translation. Hola, Carlos, ¿cómo estás? Hi, Carlos. How are you? So I would just sit there for I don't know how long, just reading this stuff and trying to understand it. Little did I know, you guys, that now as an adult, I would be ministering to people in Latino America in Spanish and helping to give them these principles of life and love and success and happiness. I at 7, how could you possibly know? But there are indicators even from our youth as to, I believe, what are God-given destinies. And so I would say probably about 90% of my professional clientele for the law office is Latino. Just because there aren't that many bilingual attorneys in Charlottesville. We have some, but I've been here for a minute. I've been here all my life, really. And so I'm very, very grateful to all of my clients and the people I get to help. You know, one of the best things about my law practice with the Latino community?
What is that?
I get to help many of them buy businesses.
That's awesome.
Come on.
Generational impact.
You talk about legacy. So yes, I want to leave a legacy of goodness and a trail of goodness behind me, but I want to help other people do that too. And that's part of my legacy. What do I want to be remembered for? That she was somebody said she's a woman of integrity.
That's huge. That's everything.
It's everything. It's everything. Because you can be a wonderful, successful attorney, pastor, entrepreneur, doctor, but if you lack integrity.
It reminds me of a saying my parents used to preach constantly. No one can take your integrity away, but you can give it away.
Wow.
And we heard that growing up.
That's a good saying.
You embody integrity. You embody honor. And
Thank you so much,
I
Jerry.
truly mean that. I truly mean that. You are inspiring folks. Adriana and Staten Island says, Alex, you're on fire. It's our own fears as Latinos that we need to get over before starting a business. Exactly. Your brain is your best friend and your own enemy. We must get out of our own way and overcome our fears to become entrepreneurs. Carlos Moreno says, the stereotype I love is that Latinos are hard workers. Of course we are hard workers.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this to you. Final word for you here, and then I'm going to final word with you. Sure. Your thoughts on what you're hearing from the audience. Your thoughts on how Forward Adelante is helping the community, and your thoughts that folks from Staten Island and Peru and Italy are connecting with you and really find what you're saying resonating and inspiring.
Well, it just goes to show the global human initiative to really work hard, to appreciate going out on your own, encouraging others. You know, I do love that. Every once in a while, I think older used to tell me, you know, there's the little bit of truth in some of the stereotypes, and that's a good one. Hardworking Latinos, you know, you take it.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Are you kidding? Work ethic? Come on.
And that's a fantastic thing. And Carlos, he is a member of the Forward Adelante team. So, you know,
yes.
I do want to do a quick shout out to them because it's so helpful to have them here. There's Carlos, Cristel, Noel, our vice president, Olga, our founder, Javier Urpí, my father, and our treasurer. Don't want to forget Tony Polanco, who's just always a great influence. Chef Tony,
yes.
He came through Community Investment Collaborative, CIC. They've always been a great supporter of ours, and they do great work in terms of helping people, you know, pursue whether they want to be in business, teaching them great skills. Yeah. Don't want to forget anybody. Carlos, Carolina Medina, also at CIC, also with us. Great people that that help Forward run the way it runs. And really, yeah, I mean, I just love the idea that so many people here are resonating with the concept of, you know what, it's the hard work, it's what you put into it, it's integrity. Because like you said, I love that quote so much that you can give it away.
Yeah, but no one can take your integrity away, but you can give it away.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, that's what's being
powerful.
Exactly. That's what we sort of push it Forward Adelante. You know, I mean, because it's for us, it's more than just, you know, connecting businesses. Any networking event could do that, to put you in touch with someone else and you share some business cards. For us, it's about the culture and the people. The reason why do we put a guitarist and tango dancers at a networking event? It's because we recognize that when you put one entrepreneur from Charlottesville in touch with a Latino entrepreneur, they need to connect as people first. They need to recognize one another's integrity. Michelle Zahur from the Virginia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, he once said something that resonated to me at I think it was at the Chamber Business Diversity Council luncheon. He said, one of the things about the Latino community is to get their business, you have to become their friend and earn their trust first. You don't just do business with someone you don't know. You become their friend, you get their trust. And part of that, you don't become friends with and trust someone who doesn't have integrity. And so what we put together at Forward Adelante events is, you know what, let's have people connect as people with breaking down those cultural barriers, understanding, oh, this is the music of your culture. This is the food of your culture. That's why we always have Latino caterers. This is the food of your culture. These are the connections we make as people so that we can start to trust each other, that we can legitimately care for each other, and then say, okay, instead of doing business with someone I don't know, I'm going to do business with someone I know and trust. And that's actually going to be a Latino. That's not going to be someone just from, you know, rolling through my Rolodex. I met this person at a Forward Adelante event, and I met all these diverse entrepreneurs. I'm going to do business with them. And they're going to say the same. You know what? I, as a Latino, I want to sell to people of other cultures. I'm happy to sell to my own culture. I want to sell to others. I want them to know what it's like to live in my culture and to taste my food and to hear my music and to appreciate that as we can share with each other. And that's part of what we do all the time at our events. It's part of what we do at the magazine. It's part of what we'll be doing June 27th. And there are still tickets for that. Just got to throw that out there. FABA2019.eventbrite.com. And part of the reason we do this is people always ask me, how do you sell $25 tickets when you give people all the food, all the appetizers, and all the drinks for free? Right? Because normally it costs
much more than that.
And I always say, I don't want to price out me 5 years ago. Starting my own business.
Oh, that's so
with
good.
Nothing there, right? All I had was my brother and I, Nick and I. We said we're going to go into research. All we've done is a couple of laptops and our knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? And if you had come to Nick and I and said $100, all this food, all this stuff, he would have said thanks,
no way.
But no thanks.
Right.
Thanks, but no thanks. And I go home tomorrow and get some home cooking. Right? But so I don't want to price out me 5 years ago. I want to make sure that all the Latino entrepreneurs and the diverse entrepreneurs that are just starting out, that really want to connect with people, can say, hey, I can do this. I can go to this. I can meet people. And even if you don't get business instantly, which it takes a long process to earn that trust, to make that connection. The key is you'll have met people, great people, diverse people that you won't meet anywhere else, celebrating diversity, right? And celebrating the achievement of overcoming that adversity. It's funny, diversity and overcoming adversity to achieve that success and give back. You're going to meet the best type of people there. You're going to meet people of integrity because we're all celebrating something that is worth celebrating.
Love that answer. Great final word for Alex. We're going to give Cynthia the show here. Barbara Miller says you're an absolutely amazing woman. Alex Fran, I think is her last name, Keller.
Yes.
Keller, she says, good job, Alex. That was amazing. Leontine Clay Peck just shared the show. So did Ray Cadell. We certainly appreciate that. So did Billy Kernick. Ernest Chambers, who's a physical education teacher at Charlottesville High School, is watching right now. John White is watching at Keswick. Adriana says, you both are a great examples to the younger generation of family, of what you can do if you work hard and put your mind to it. Thank you for that perspective, Adriana.
Another entrepreneur.
Cynthia is an author. Here are 3 of her books literally in my hands. She has an international ministry. She has a law firm that bears her name. She's an entrepreneur. She's a leader. She's a role model. She's the Chuck Lewis Passion Award winner from Forward Adelante. She is undoubtedly making Charlottesville and Central Virginia a better place. Cynthia Murray, final word is yours.
Thanks, Jerry. I just want to, it would be wrong of me not to just say thank you to Forward Adelante, to Olga Morse, to Cristel, to Alex, and all of the team, Carlos, everybody. I actually met Olga many, many years ago when I started a little newsletter in Central Virginia called Ahora, which means now in Spanish, Spanish Services. And I just threw my little heart into that newsletter because I wanted to have something in writing for the Latino community. But then, and so I met Olga that way, and she came along with Forward Adelante that, was totally the right thing. Ahora Spanish Services was no longer needed because this wonderful organization came to be. I'm very grateful to Olga for being my friend, for putting her trust in me to receive this award. And one final word about, what you can do, because we're talking about overcoming obstacles, as a minority, and a minority that is very obvious because of outward appearance. A lot of times people can try to put you into a box. What I would say is don't let anybody put you into a box. You just, you overcome all of those external obstacles by knowing what's in you, what you can do. And then I tell my nephews this, and other kids that I'm kind of like a mom for. I say the best revenge for people saying you can't do something is actually doing it. Do it with class, do it with love, do it with excellence, and close everyone's mouth.
Love it. Love it. Made the show easy. 75 minutes in.
Look at that.
So good. So good. Alex and Cynthia, thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Show.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you, Jerry.
Our
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Our pleasure. They embody the spirit we're trying to spotlight here as social entrepreneurs ourselves. We undoubtedly are running a for-profit business, but we're doing it in a way where we're trying to leave the community in a better place than when we first arrived in 2000. And those two are not mutually exclusive. They can undoubtedly work hand in hand and synergistically. We close the show the same way every single day. We ask you to embody the golden rule. I am not going to make this about religion today. I'm going to make this about treating others how you want to be treated yourself. Treat others how you want to be treated yourself, and watch the positive viral impact it will have on any community that you are watching, any community that you're a part of. And we have folks watching in Italy and Purdue and South Carolina, on Staten Island, Northern Virginia, Richmond, across Central Virginia. Please, guys, the golden rule. It's Jerry Miller for Harris Tolber, for Judah Wickhauer, Lauren Linsky, our team upstairs. It's the I Love CVille Show, Monday through Friday from 12:30 to 1:30 on the I Love CVille Network. Amazing.
Oh,
Amazing.
Jerry, thank you so
Seriously.
much. Thank you. Sorry I didn't want to.
It's happened.
Cry.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Yeah. Oh, thank you,
So
Jerry.
easy with
Thank
the
you so
interview.
much for inviting me.
No, seriously.
Both
Now
of
you can see why it only took one interview. That they won. Oh, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, Alex, I loved everything you guys said. I think there's so much like our thought. We think alike.